So let's talk about two issues in pricing that are very important. One is the impact of discounting your price and its impact on profits. And then secondly, the issue of pricing through the channel. So let's start with the impact of lowering your price to try to increase price. All right, so what about the impact of price cutting on profits? Understand, for instance, that if I have a $100 product and it costs me $60 to produce, if I reduce the price by 20%, that is down from $100 down to $80, I have now, all of that discount has to come out of the profits. And so instead of now making $40 per unit, I'm only making $20 per unit. And so understand that when you cut prices, it has a major impact on profits. And in fact, we have a little formula here that shows you how that works. And this is the gross profit margin as a percent divided by the gross profit margin as a percent minus the price change percentage minus 1 equals the unit volume change needed to maintain the same level of profits. Now I know that sounds a little bit confusing, so let's walk through a quick example. Let's say that you sold 500 units at $100 of each and the cost of production is $60. If you reduce your price by 20%, that is down to $80, 20% off the original price, how many more units would you have to sell to keep the same level of profit? Okay, so to make this calculation, we need to start with our original gross profit margin. So our original gross profit margin was $40 divided by $100 or 0.4, 40%. That was our original gross profit margin. If you reduce the price by 20%, that is down to $20, then we take our original gross profit margin, 0.4 or 40%, minus the 20% discount or 0.2% or 0.2, and then divide and then take that number and minus it by 1. So if we take that, you'll notice that it's 0.4 over 0.4 minus 0.2, or 0.4 over 0.2, or 2 minus 1, or 1, which means that if I reduced my price by 20% down to $80 from $100, I would have to double my sales, increase my sales by 100% or double my sales to get the same amount of profits. Now you can sort of intuitively think through this for a second. If I'm making $40 per unit on every unit I sell, and I reduce the price by $20 down to $80, now I'm only making $20 per unit. All right, so I was making $40 a unit. Now I'm making $20 a unit. How many more units do I have to sell? Well, obviously twice as many units, or 100% increase in sales. So you can even intuitively understand that. To give you a little feel for that, what I've done here is developed a little chart for you. And the chart shows the price reduction on the left-hand column and the margins across the top. And inside the table then is the unit volume increase percentage needed to maintain the same level of profit for a price reduction. So let's say, for instance, that I had a 30% price reduction on something that had a 70% margin. That means, so for instance, I sell a product for $100 and I only cost me $30 to make it. All right, so I would be getting a 70% margin on that product. If I reduce the price by even 30%, I would have to get 75% more sales than the original amount just to break even in terms of profit, to maintain the same level of profit. So this table shows you this, and then later on in the pricing problems, we'll do one more problem so that you get a sense of this one more time. So the bottom line here to learn from this is that every single dollar that I reduce my price by comes out of profits. That's an important notion. The result means then that for most situations, the most likely thing to do is not reduce price if I'm trying to build or maintain profits. Now, pricing through the channel is really also important. So let me give you an example here. So I have a product that cost me $100 to make. I the markup to the distributor is 30%, so I charge the distributor $130 for the product. The distributor marks it up by 35% to the retailer. that makes the product $175.50. And then the retailer marks it up 100%, or Keystone markup, to the end consumer. It's $351. So something that cost me $100 to produce now costs the retail customer $351. Suppose that my costs go up by $20. Now my manufacturing cost is $120. If my markup to distributor stays the same, and my markup to the retailer stays the same, and the markup to the end consumer stays the same, the price doesn't go up by $20. The price actually goes up by $70. That's right, a $20 increase in my costs might increase the price to the end customer by $70. Or in this particular case, it is in fact that 20% increase. So what happens if I'm able to reduce my price by $20? Well, if I'm able to reduce my price by $20 and maintain, and I keep the same percentages, you'll see that my price goes from $351 down to $280, or in this case, a 20% decrease overall. And of course, think about that. That's a big discount for end consumers. So you need to understand how all that works. Lessons to be learned about pricing through the channel. One is the effects are multiplicative. All right, and so when I start reducing price or increasing price, everybody in the channel has to move that price along, that price increase along, and so the effects are multiplicative. That is, they increase multifold. So understand that a small change in costs or prices might mean to the end customer, might mean a significant change in price to the end customer. Now, here's an example of selecting a final price through the channel. This is a Ping golf club example. All right, and so I go to the store and I say, these Ping golf clubs cost $800. That seems like a lot of money. How did we get to that number? Well, the manufacturing cost for the Karsten company, which makes the golf clubs, might only be $200, but then they get a 50% markup on retail price to the wholesaler. And then he gets a 30% markup on retail price to the retailer, and then the price to the end consumer is $800. All right, and so you'll notice that everybody made a profit in this, and everybody does some of the work in this, but a $200 set of clubs results in an $800 price. Last thing we want to talk about in this section is making special adjustments to the list or quoted price. One of this is the notion of price discrimination. That is, we might adjust price based on age. For instance, we have a senior discount at the we might have a senior discount for our products or something like that. That's called price discrimination. Sometimes price discrimination is legal. Many times price discrimination is not legal. There is this notion of deceptive pricing, where my price is in fact deceptive. There could be geographical pricing, where my pricing changes depending on what part of the world or the country I'm selling the product. And there is this notion of predatory pricing, where I try to charge prices that are so low that it runs the competition out of business. Now, your book talks about the five most common types of deceptive pricing practices, and you ought to be familiar with this. They include the famous bait and switch that we talked about before. It includes bargains conditional on other purchases, comparable value comparisons, and comparisons of with suggested prices, and then former price comparisons. And so these are things that, when you see any of these, it ought to raise a little red flag in your head saying, I wonder if that is in fact a deceptive pricing practice.